The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma.
The representatives from diverse civic sectors have established the Vote for Europe movement, launching the 100 Days to Victory campaign from July 18 to October 26 throughout Georgia and among the Georgian diaspora. The Georgian President Salome Zurabishvili addressed the movement's participants, emphasizing the critical need to align with European values and direction and criticizing the current government for deviating from this path and blocking Georgia's progress towards Europe. Georgia chooses the path of development, freedom, and democracy at every major part of its history. This is the European way and European values, which are first of all Georgian values, the president said. The cooperation between Georgia and the USA and the relations established since the first year of independence do not deserve the current situation. Instead of returning to where we were, we should strengthen and elevate this partnership to a new level, said Georgian Ambassador David Zalkaliani. According to the ambassador to the United States, the discussion between the Georgian Foreign Minister Ilya Darchiashvili and John Bass, the deputy of Anthony Blinken, addressed the current situation between the countries. The decision of the USA and the European Union to suspend the allocation of funds in defense is unfortunate because it does not meet our expectations regarding the restart of relations, said Prime Minister Irakli Qobakhidze at the recent cabinet meeting. According to the PM, these relations truly need to be restarted, and the Georgian side is ready for this. The document released after the NATO Anniversary Summit represents a significant departure in format and content compared to previous releases. Georgia has its place in the document, stated Irakli Chikovani, Georgian Defense Minister, regarding the NATO Washington Summit declaration. Chikovani highlighted that the declaration includes a clear statement calling for the withdrawal of Russian military forces from Georgian territories. He emphasized NATO's support for the open door policy, affirming that every state has the freedom to decide on joining the alliance. This is the Checkpoints. I'm Elena Kwanchilashvili, author and the host of the show, and the Checkpoints team is ready to sum up business and economics week for you. We will start today's program with the focus on women economic empowerment. The Checkpoints talk to Sofia Sprechman Sineiro, Uruguayan humanitarian and the Secretary General of the development charity CARE International. Sprechman Sineiro has worked in international development since 1994. Based in Ecuador, Sprechman Sineiro has served as Secretary General at CARE International since 2020. She has worked for CARE for over 30 years, including as the program director for the CARE International Secretariat. Sprechman Sineiro was integral to placing women and gender justice at the heart of CARE International's work, and this is exactly the main emphasis of CARE work in Georgia. The reasons behind this decision, and of course the challenges that the highly divisive Russian law poses to the donor community and their support. Here is our exclusive interview with Sofia Sineiro. Ms. Sineiro, thank you for being with us, and thank you for taking our questions. First, please elaborate a little bit what is the ambition of CARE Caucasus in Georgia? What is its mission, its goals, and whose interests does CARE Caucasus serve here in Georgia?
Thank you very much for the opportunity to connect. CARE, everywhere in the world, and also in Georgia, we focus on women and girls and their empowerment. We focus on, for example, economic development for women-owned small enterprises. We also respond when there's emergencies, and that is also true in Georgia. For example, with the influx of refugees, of Ukrainian refugees, we, of course, support people in their most dire and complex hour. And in the current situation in Georgia, we have also done significant work for the integration and also economic opportunity of especially Ukrainian women.
How do you evaluate the challenges and opportunities that Georgia poses to CARE Caucasus to work here, and how have those evolved over times?
Well, in the Caucasus, we have worked now for several decades, for 3 decades, and it has always been a context that since then, in which we not only provide support and assistance, but also one from which to learn. There is immense talent in Georgia, in the Caucasus, so there is great opportunity for also learning about solutions that then may work and also be useful elsewhere in the world. So the work in Georgia and in the Caucasus is immensely important. And of course, also because of where it is located right now, as I mentioned, we are supporting Ukrainian refugees. Again, Georgia is the context with immense opportunity for learning, for innovation, fantastic innovation in our programs that then we can use elsewhere in the world.
What would you say are the main achievements of CARE Caucasus in Georgia?
CARE Caucasus has been just phenomenal in supporting women-led businesses. I will insist on that one because it really shines, and I was lucky enough 2 weeks ago to be in Georgia to see it firsthand. This is really where CARE Georgia is making an immense difference and supporting in many ways women-led enterprises to succeed. This is not necessarily the emphasis of CARE in other parts of the world. There is places in the world in which CARE, for example, focuses much more on food assistance, where there is significant hunger. Or there's places in the world where CARE focuses more on health, on reproductive health of women and girls. But in Georgia, given its situation, given its priorities, given also its progress on many fronts, it is really on women-led enterprises on which we focus.
You have in the breakdown of what CARE Caucasus does specifically in Georgia on your website, you have also this part, collaborating with government on policy dialogue and decision making. What are some of the directions there? I mean, what has CARE Caucasus initiated or helped the government to achieve in this part?
Of course, the director of CARE Georgia, CARE Caucasus, would be much better equipped than I am to answer specific questions about the programs, since I work at the global level. However, what we do in Georgia and everywhere we work, we do coordinate with the government. And that's also why that is signaled on the website, because an NGO should not work in isolation of the government priorities and plans and come in and deliver programs that may not be in line with the national development plan. So everywhere we go, we also, and not just us, also other NGOs, and in this case, of course, CARE Georgia is its own national NGO, but part of the CARE Confederation. There's always close collaboration with other NGOs, with the government, to also make sure that not everyone will do the same thing in the same place, the same interventions in the same place. It's very important to coordinate to make sure that we are providing value add in the most needed parts of the country where the need is greatest, and also in coordination with other actors, other civil society actors and the government, of course. So I have seen in my years with CARE NGOs in some contexts not working in coordination, and then duplicating efforts, and sometimes leaving then some parts of a country behind. And therefore, it is very important that we coordinate in that way.
If you compare Georgia to the other countries of the region, what would make Georgia stand out, and vice versa, of course?
Well, yeah, thanks. That's a really important question, because Georgia is quite different than many countries in which we work in the region and also across the globe, of course, because we now have a situation globally in which 5 years in a row, global hunger levels have increased. We have a situation now in the world where 1 out of 6 persons lives in conflict. This is the highest number of conflict-related deaths we have had this year of civilians in decades. 114 million people are currently displaced in the world. So this is really a situation right now in which, of course, in the region, we have the war in Ukraine. We have also a very, very complex situation, of course, in Turkey with now war in Syria since 2011, and therefore a very significant millions of Syrian refugees living in Turkey. So there's many contexts, and of course, and a bit further away, but not too far in the region, of course, Gaza. So when you compare the situation in Georgia with that of other contexts, of course, it is much better off. However, in every country, there's inequality. There's usually those that live more in the capital cities that are better off, those that live in rural areas that still struggle and need support in order to come by. And again, what strikes me in Georgia is its incredible capacity of its people, its innovation, its potential to be truly a laboratory of solutions that can be applied elsewhere. So I think that is what I would highlight. Let me highlight maybe one more topic, which is of course a concern everywhere in the world, and that is that 72% of the world's population now lives in countries with authoritarian rule. So democratizing has been the lowest in decades, and in many countries there's only ceremonial elections, and we are seeing really a complex situation worldwide in that regard. So we need all better solutions for more democratic societies in which there's deep dialogue to find solutions together to address inequality and poverty.
You mentioned democracy and democratization, and you know Georgia's aspirations to Euro-Atlantic integration and how Georgia is striving to become a member of the European Union and the NATO. And the main obstacle so far for this opened window of opportunity for Georgia is the so-called Russian law. Has the Russian law changed anything on CARE Caucasus agenda?
It has not. I mean, we don't work in politics. We work on with development and addressing poverty. But so far, we're doing the work as we have done for 3 decades very successfully, and are working strongly with the communities in the country in which we have the honor to serve and work with them. So our work is going ahead as planned.
But of course, you understand that it has nothing to do with the law itself. Has nothing to do with the content itself, like what you are doing. It's just getting the foreign funds, and if those foreign funds are 20% or more of the revenue, then the organizations, civil organizations, have to register as basically as foreign agents. So how would you assess what CARE Caucasus is doing in Georgia through its partners, as you mentioned, through collaborations, through CARE Georgia? Does it serve Georgia's interest or any other global interest?
We serve the interest of the people that need our support in order to advance in their lives economically, socially. So that's the interest that we serve and that we will always serve. I'm very aware of the law that you just mentioned, but for now it has not impacted the work we do, the work we have done every day. And our interest is to serve the people that require assistance to advance in life, those women that lead enterprises. That's where we focus our attention.
Looking forward, what could be the implications of this law to your mind? Because all the partners or the strategic partners of Georgia urge Georgia to take the law down because it will impact the way the civil society and media are functioning in this country. Do you also think that this law might be an impediment to the democratic fiber of the country?
It of course could be an impediment. I mean, this is a situation that is unfolding. It could also be. It could also then impact even donor funding. That is, even the donors could decide that therefore they may prefer not to assist Georgia given these kind of laws. That is happening, by the way, in other countries as well. In other countries where there's several, probably too many to name, where there have been similar laws, and then donors are then also shy in terms of investing in a country where there are these kind of laws. So not only is it complex from the civil society side, it then often happens that there's just less flow of resources in support of people that need this assistance. So most definitely, it would be better not to have such a law so that there's a smooth collaboration between all actors in society, everybody that needs to government, non-government organizations, partners of all types, the communities themselves that need to come together in support of each other, and not in fear of each other, but in support of each other in order to work collaboratively to address these problems. But again, of course, I'm not an expert in Georgia and its laws, but the best thing that can happen in any society in the world is working in togetherness in order to advance an agenda to support those that need our support.
And Safia, thank you so much for your time. One of the focuses of CARE works in Georgia is also pro-poor and sustainable economic development. How would you evaluate how Georgia is doing on that path, and what could CARE do for poor communities in Georgia?
Well, that's our main objective. That is absolutely our main objective of CARE. And I actually visited Georgia for the very first time in 1997, I believe, and have seen it evolve since then. So it's been quite some time since I have had the honor of visiting beautiful Georgia first. And yes, economic development, and again, especially with a focus on women, on girls, on gender, on supporting them, because there's so many blockages for women in so many ways everywhere in the world, not exclusively in Georgia, but that also manifests itself in Georgia, often because of violence against women, often because women are not seen as having by male counterparts in some cases the same ability to manage businesses. All of that is, of course, often impediments that have to do with old ideas that still are floating around, and therefore working to support the empowerment of women in Georgia, including Ukrainian refugees, is of course at the core of the program of CARE Georgia.
And my last question, what would be your main message? I mean, what do you want to be remembered as your main message from our interview today?
I think the main message is that it really takes the collaboration of many in order to address complex problems that the world and Georgia is confronted with at a time which feels very, very difficult in the world, and that focusing on women and girls and their empowerment economically and also on other fronts, as leaders in society, is actually essential for peace building, because peace often has started with women at home, in the communities, everywhere. And therefore, investing in women and girls is actually a peace building activity and a peace building strategy that we should all pursue.
Thank you so much, Sofia, for your time, and thank you for this very interesting interview.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to connect. Thank you.
What was new in business this week? Natia Taktakishvili will tell us more.
Tsiskuli Group has opened another restaurant, Tsiskuli Terrace. The new restaurant is located in Tbilisi's Zviad-Gamsakhurdia Sanapiro Street. Tsiskuli Terrace combines the hot terrace and stained glass spaces. Tsiskuli Terrace is another project created with a lot of hard work, which will soon earn the special love of customers, says Georgi Shvelidze, General Director of Tsiskuli Group. Tsiskuli Terrace is a space with a different design in which natural materials, clay and wood, are used. One of the main things that distinguishes the new branch of Tsiskuli from other restaurants is the terrace full of greenery from which the views of Tbilisi can be seen. There is a summer bar and a stage, the stained glass space and the hall with its open kitchen, which will allow guests to observe the process of cooking, says the author of the project, Akaki Chhaidze. Tsiskuli Terrace offers the well-known Georgian traditional dishes along with the regional and seasonal cuisine. The first restaurant of Tsiskuli was opened in 2002. Today, this is the largest chain of traditional Georgian restaurants in Georgia and includes 8 restaurants located in Tbilisi and its surroundings: Ethno Tsiskuli, Ludis Moedani, Ghvinis Ezot, Tsiskuli in Mtskheta, Tsiskuli in Vaki, Tsiskuli Tskhnetshi, and Tsiskuli Terrace. In addition, the company owns the multifunctional space theater and 2 markets of premium products, Tsiskuli Bazaar. Company Rooms Hotel has a new director. Valery Chekheria officially left the position of director of Rooms Hotels late in June. Along with him, Valery Berulava, who was managing director of Rooms Holding, left the company. According to the data of the business register, the mentioned position was taken by Mariam Lashauri. Rooms Hotels unites hotels in Kazbegi, Tbilisi, Kokhta and Batumi. 100% shareholder of Rooms Hotel is the company Rooms Holding, which in turn belongs to Business and Ugulava. IG Development Georgia, the owner of City Mall, has published its financial report for 2023. According to the document, the total income of the company has increased to 88 million lari, which was 8 million lari more compared to the same period of the previous year. According to the financial report, IG Development Georgia spent 17 million lari on operating expenses, 30 million on general and administrative expenses. Thus, the company's operating profit made up 58 million lari. Financial expenses stood at 7 million lari. Overall, IG Development Georgia had a net profit of 49 million lari last year, which was over 6 million lari less than in 2022. The main activity of the group is property management and leasing of commercial spaces in 3 shopping centers: City Mall Kavtaradze, City Mall Vaja, City Mall Gdani, and the business center City Towers. All malls have more than 300 stores at the same time, including supermarkets, fast food, restaurant, clothing, and other stores. Business and Media Sabanadze is the founder of IG Development Georgia. Georgi Chikwaidze, the founder and managing partner of Ramses Yacht, declares that the demand in Georgia is mainly for low-class yachts and boats, which rental price amounts to $200 per hour. As for hiring a high-quality yacht, the average daily price ranges from $3,500 to $4,000. Demand to buy yacht is less this year compared to the previous one, although we have two very large projects and the focus has shifted to the construction of two mega yacht clubs. As for small boats, two floating zones have been already set up and we will transfer the yachts in the near future. As for the rental of boats and yachts, there is a great demand this year, which comes from tourist companies. Mostly small boats are rented in the yacht club, but this will improve over time. This business is done by individuals or owners. Low-level yacht costs $200 per hour. A high-level yacht for one day, which includes the captain and fuel, costs over $4,000, said Georgi Chikwaidze. Handmade bags and accessories company Cosmo expanded and opened a new branch in Gori. This is the second space of Cosmo in Georgia. We opened a similar branch in Batumi last year. Cosmo products are presented in branch as well as an open workshop space where you can sew the desired accessory yourself. This allows each person to discover new opportunities and become a participant in the creation process. Sophie Mukholishvili, co-founder of the brand, said, according to her, Cosmo invested $100,000 to open a new branch in Gori where the full assortment of the brand is presented. The opening of the branch in Gori was decided based on the customer's request, and these few days of operation exceeded our expectations. The follow of customers does not stop, which also affects the sales figures. At this stage, we have 150 types of products and the annual production amounts to 50,000 units, said Sophie Mukholishvili. As for the price of Cosmo accessories, they range from $15 to $30, while the price of bags start from $89 and reach $300. Company Cosmo was founded in 2015. Cosmo has 8 branches, 2 branches in Batumi, 5 branches in Tbilisi, 1 branch in Gori, and 3 partner stores in Kutaisi. The family business Bakashvili's winery, located in Kakheti, offers customers 6 types of wine, namely Kisi, Khikhvir, Katsiteli, and Mtswane. Last year, the company also started producing raspberry wine in Kvevri. As the founder of the company, Ako Bakashvili, told BMDG, the construction of a new cellar started recently, in which about 100,000 lari should be invested. According to him, the full arrangement of the cellar should be completed this year. We had an old cellar, but recently we built a new one. Now I'm waiting for new devices to fully equip the cellar. We have invested 100,000 lari. The new equipment will be intended for high-quality production. Products are mainly sold in the local market, specialized stores and high-class hotels. In addition, we export to Germany and Austria. In total, we produce 4,000 bottles of wine, of which 1,500 bottles are exported. In the local market, our wine is mainly sold in the range of 50 lari. As for raspberry wine, its value is determined by 150 lari, he said. According to him, the demand for products is normal. In the current year, it's planned to find new markets, which they are starting to work on now. Bakery chain Antre continues to expand in the Azerbaijan market. As the company told BMDG, the 8th branch will be opened from September in Baku. It should be noted that Antre has been operating on Azerbaijan market for 10 years. As for the investment, the company invested about 300,000 euros and will employ an additional 14 people. Antre currently operates in 3 countries and owns 15 facilities in Tbilisi, 7 facilities in Baku, and 4 facilities in London. Moreover, the company plans to enter the US market from the next year. As the company told BMDG, it's planned to invest $2.5 million and employ 25 people in the USA at the initial stage. The first glamping hotel opened in 2018 in the village of Krehi Raja region welcomes the summer season with a newly opened outdoor pool. According to Georgi Isakadze, founder of Glamping Georgia Krehi, a new pool can host over 25 people. The new pool will be mainly intended for our guests, but we will open it for a small number of other vacationers when we don't have many guests. It will be possible to book a visit to the pool on our website. The one-time visit cost amounts to 50 lari, and if you book a tent, it's included in the price, says Georgi Sakadze. According to him, the investment to arrange the infinity pool exceeded 150,000 USD. As Sakadze notes, bookings for glamping during the summer season have recently been activated, and there is an expectation that the hotel will be 100% occupied in July-August. Speaking about the future plans, the founder of Glamping Georgia says that there are new plans to add new tents. The goal is to create new social spaces. We're focused on creating additional interesting social spaces. We don't plan to add more tents. We want to create services and move to a higher segment. Also, we have already added a new space. We have organized a gathering place around the bonfire and would like to have other similar offers, says Georgi Sakadze. Glamping Georgia Krehi in Racha was opened in 2018. The hotel includes 10 glamping tents and 2 cottages. However, several rooms are currently under renovation. Glamping hotel rental for one night starts from 180 lari per person and increases to 500 lari depending on the type of a tent. Sisters Wine will appear on the Canadian market this year. Tamda Ayvazishvili, co-founder of winery, told BMDG about this. According to her, the winery started production in 2017. At this stage, they produce 5 types of wine, namely Kisi, Xixui, Kahuri, Mtsuaner, Katsiteli, and Saperavi. The winery Sisters Wine is a family business located in the village of Gardenachi in Kakheti. The raw materials are from our vineyards. We produce over 3,000 bottles of wine in a year. At this stage, we are holding negotiations with Canadian partners. We have already signed the test batches and received positive feedback from them. They also come and mentioned that we are impressed with our wine. Therefore, I can safely say that Sisters Wine will be exported to the Canadian market this year. It should be noted that international markets are more interested in small production because they are focused on quality more. As for the local markets, we have very good feedback from the local market as well. We sell products both on site and online. However, negotiations are underway with several wine restaurants where our wine is planted to be served. The price of our wine starts from 30 lari and varies depending on the type, says Ayvazishvili. It should be noted that family members are mostly employed on the winery. Also, they employ about 10 people during the season.
In 2023, the parliament became a closed institution. It transformed into an even more inaccessible and non-transparent institution for representatives of civil society and critical media. The denial of access to enter the parliament and attend committee sessions was made without providing specific justification, citing only the general security regulations of the parliament. The parliament has seized the release of public information that could potentially be used as grounds for criticism against members of the parliament, reads the report published by Transparency International Georgia. According to TI Georgia, granting the status of candidacy of the European Union to Georgia marked a pivotal event for the country in 2023, and the role of the parliament is crucial on the path of European integration. As the organization states, in response to the request for public information, the parliament did not provide them with the information it has routinely provided for the last 10 years. The count of speeches delivered by MPs and details on disciplinary actions taken against them, complete information on the activities of the committees. In February 2023, members of the parliamentary majority from Georgian Dream's offshoot People's Power introduced 2 draft laws to the parliament on the transparency of foreign influence, the so-called Russian law, which was approved by the parliament in the first reading. The discussion of the draft law sparked considerable tension in society. The protests persisted from March 2 to March 8. After the large-scale protests, the ruling party decided to withdraw the bills. The people's resistance and their commitment to a European path played a crucial role in the country achieving candidate status of the EU membership. Further improvement of the implementation of parliamentary oversight, notably of the security services, is one of the steps defined by the European Commission as a condition for granting the status of a candidate country to Georgia. Some of the 9 conditions defined for Georgia continue. The 12 recommendations issued by the European Commission in June 2022, while some are completely new. Georgia fully implemented 3 out of 12 conditions, TI Georgia states in its recent report. TI Georgia gathered some statistics, including 12 ministerial hours and 6 interpellations were held in 2023. Accountable persons were summoned to the committee, sitting 6 times. In 5 cases, the initiator was the opposition. In 1 case, the committee. The accountable person attended the session 5 times. The deliberation period extensions were utilized in a total of 111 times for 73 legislative packages, 245 bills. The number of parliamentary questions decreased. 47 MPs sent a total of 2,997 questions to ministers and accountable persons, of which 77 were from the majority MPs and 2,920 were from the opposition. Opposition MP Tinatin Bokuchava sent the most questions, 582 questions. 3 requests for the establishment of a temporary investigative commission were lodged in the parliament, all of which were initiated by the opposition. However, in none of these instances was the investigative commission formed. As for the activity of members of the parliament, TI Georgia's analysis shows that a total of about 2 million lari was allocated for overseas business trips of the 98 members of parliament. The highest number of bills, 105 bills, from the majority was initiated by Irma Zavradashvili, and from the opposition by Alexandre Rakviashvili, 74 bills. Cesar Chocheli from the opposition missed plenary sessions the most times, 23 absences, and from the majority, Eliso Bolkwadze, counting 13 absences. Georgi Godabrelidze from the opposition missed plenary sessions the most times without valid reasons, 16 absences, and from the majority, Mariam Lashki, counting 10 absences. In 2022, 52 members of the parliament posed 5,093 questions. As for the important legislative amendments, TI Georgia differentiates between the legislative changes that are positively and negatively evaluated. Among the laws regarded as progressive are the following: new legislation regarding personal data protection and an amendment to the anti-corruption law, which mandates prosecutors to disclose asset declarations. The following legislative changes are negatively evaluated: an initiative for a preliminary prohibition on temporary constructions during gatherings and demonstrations, modifications to broadcasting regulations concerning the management of hate speech, and amendments to accountability and oversight provisions in the rules of procedure, reads the statement. The Council of Europe's Group of States Against Corruption, GRECO, calls for determined measures to prevent corruption in Georgia in respect of persons with top executive functions and law enforcement officials. You can see French and Georgian versions both of the report. GRECO recognizes that a few positive steps were taken in recent years, including the adoption of the law on combating corruption, which contains a number of integrity-related rules. Georgia has a fairly comprehensive system of the declaration of assets and financial interests, and these declarations are made public online, GRECO says. At the time of the evaluation visit in 2023, Georgia was in the process of establishing new corruption risk management mechanisms, and efforts were being made to reinforce internal monitoring mechanisms for law enforcement to not only address the major problem of police ill treatment. In its report, GRECO calls for the adoption of a specific strategy to prevent corruption within the executive, as no new national anti-corruption strategy and action plan have been developed since 2020. There is no code of conduct that applies specifically to persons with top executive functions, and clear guidance on conflicts of interest and other integrity-related matters should be developed for them. The report also notes that integrity checks are missing in the appointment procedure to prevent risks of conflicts of interest in top executive functions. Lobbying regulations are in place but not enforced in practice. A risk-based approach in the process of selection of declarations of assets and financial interests to be monitored needs to be developed. GROK also considers that additional measures are required to ensure that the newly established Anti-Corruption Bureau can adequately fulfill its role, including by revising its legal framework to ensure an increased operational independence and by providing it with adequate financial and human resources. GRECO recommends increasing transparency regarding the nomination of advisors in the government, applying more stringent rules to gifts and other benefits, as well as introducing broadly applicable rules on post-employment restrictions. In addition, the Georgian authorities should ensure the independence and effectiveness of criminal investigations and prosecutions of persons with top executive functions suspected of having committed corruption-related offenses. GROK also notes that further steps are required to ensure timely access to information and to enhance proactive transparency. Regarding law enforcement, the Patrol Police, the Central Criminal Police and the Border Police, GRECO recommends that an operational anti-corruption strategy be established, coupled with action plans for the law enforcement agencies. Georgia should also ensure that background checks, vetting are carried out at regular intervals for all levels and more frequently depending on police officers' exposure to corruption risks and the required security levels. GRECO further notes the need for mandatory and continuous integrity training for police officers throughout their career, that the Police Code of Ethics requires updating, and that a procedure for police officers to seek confidential advice on ethical and integrity issues should be introduced. Finally, whistleblower protection measures need to be adopted and implemented in the police. The implementation of the recommendations addressed to Georgia will be assessed by GRECO in 2025 through its compliance procedure. We call on Russia to withdraw its forces from the Republic of Moldova and Georgia. It was stated in the declaration of the Washington Summit of NATO. Russia bears sole responsibility for the aggressive war against Ukraine, which is a gross violation of international law, including the UN Charter. Human rights abuses, war crimes, and other violations of international law by Russian forces and officials cannot go unpunished. Russia is responsible for thousands of civilian deaths and massive damage to civilian infrastructure. We strongly condemn Russia's horrific attacks on the Ukrainian people, including on hospitals on July the 8th. Russia must immediately end this war and completely and unconditionally withdraw all its forces from Ukraine in accordance with the UN General Assembly resolutions. We will never recognize the illegal annexation of the territory of Ukraine, including Crimea, by Russia. We also call on Russia to withdraw all its forces from the Republic of Moldova and Georgia, which are stationed there without their consent, the declaration reads. Also, the heads of states and governments participating in the meeting of the North Atlantic Council will welcome the democratic reforms of Moldova and Bosnia and Herzegovina. We are ready to support their security and defense capabilities and strengthen their capabilities against hybrid threats, the statement said. Meanwhile, on July the 5th, the U.S. Department of Defense announced the indefinite postponement of the Noble Partner exercise in Georgia, scheduled for July 25 to August 6th this year. According to the statement, the decision was made after the U.S. initiated a comprehensive review of U.S.-Georgia bilateral relations. On May 30, the U.S. government began a full review of all bilateral cooperation with Georgia. The decision to postpone this iteration of Noble Partner is due to the Georgian government's false accusations against the United States and other Western entities to pressure Georgia to open a second front against Russia to alleviate pressure on Ukraine and of participating in two coup attempts against the ruling party. As such, the United States government has determined that this is an inappropriate time to hold a large-scale military exercise in Georgia, notes the statement. The statement emphasized that the U.S. plans to continue working with the Georgian Defense Forces to strengthen Georgia's ability to protect its sovereignty and maintain its territorial integrity, noting we have not made this decision lightly and we place great consideration on the extensive value that our allies and partners add to exercises such as Noble Partner. The United States looks forward to future opportunities to cooperate with allies and partners, including Agile Spirit in 2025. And we will close off with a business interview. Our reporter Mariam Tidwinidze talked to Paul Haywood, CEO of Block Energy, about its newest plans and more.
Hello, first of all, thank you for your time. Block Energy has been operating in Georgia for more than 6 years now. It's interesting how you evaluate recent events. I mean, the adoption of so-called Russian law created quite a turbulence. So what do you think about the situation?
We tend to just focus on the business. Clearly, we closely track political events, of course, but essentially what's most important for us is that your business as usual for the company. We continue to produce our hydrocarbons, which get sold into the local market, of course, and we continue to contribute to Georgia's energy demands. So for us, it's business as usual.
You don't expect some kind of negative influence maybe in the future for your investment plans or general on your work?
No, we don't think so, actually. And it's not just Block Energy that's taking that position. Look around of some of the significant contracts that are being awarded to foreign investment throughout Georgia. And I think, again, it's business as usual for the country. I think, Georgia remains a fantastic place to do business, and it continues to stand out amongst its peer group in terms of, providing a very straightforward business environment.
Okay, let's move on to Block Energy's work. And how was 2023 and the current year for the company? And please tell us about the numbers, how much investment you made, and how much oil and gas was extracted during this period of time.
Yeah, so for 2023 was essentially, saw a bit of a shift towards what we now define our strategic project, if you like, or strategic initiative that's been developed internally. And that's a very substantial gas project that sits in the lower horizons, that sit below where we produce our oil and current gas from. So the focus for the company has been on maintaining baseline production levels, whilst also advancing a strategic interest in a project. We've defined it as Project 3. So that is a multi-TCF gas, appraisal gas project that is currently subject to farm out, and where we've engaged a local or a UK-based investment bank that's energy focused to assist us with those endeavours, which is essentially focused towards bringing in a partner to develop those resources. But the resource is significant. It could make a significant contribution to Georgia's current energy demands, and also see excess being deployed back into Europe. So that's the focus as we stand today.
Which bank is this? Which is your partner now in this project? And can you tell us investment amount of this project? So
the lead advisor on the project is a company called Lab Energy Advisors. They're a UK-based, typically focused on the upstream energy advisory. So essentially what they do is they assist the company with identifying targeted investors, which typically are focused on industry. So securing industry partners to come in and join us on the development of the project. The initial phase of appraisal for this project is around $30 million. And we see that CapEx profile being deployed over an approximate 12 to 18 month time frame. And then on success, success would mean de-risking ultimately the production of the volumes that we attribute to Project 3, would then see an investment north of $50 to $80 million as part of phase 1 development.
Now, what are the numbers of extracted oil and gas? Is these numbers increasing, and are you satisfied with these results?
We're satisfied because the company continues to grow and develop itself. So oil flows are covering costs and giving us the ability to pursue our strategic projects. But like any nimble oil and gas company, we want to move faster. But the speed is often tied to obviously you know, your capital constraints and you know, what you have to spend to accelerate development of some key projects. But you know, so far so good. You know, we're getting good, very good interest, which again kind of feeds back into your initial question. You know, what's our view on the political environment and has it impacted business?
As I know, Block Energy has 5 main projects in Georgia. So, what are their current status?
Project 1, which is, you know, essentially captures current oil and gas production, is moving along at a steady pace. You know, that project covers the cost of the company, enables us to recycle some free cash back into developing our strategic projects. So that's business as usual. Project 2 is being developed by our engineers here in Georgia and subsurface team, supported by our team in the UK. So there's a plan being developed on Project 2. Project 3 we've covered. You know, that's the farm out process that is gathering some pace now. Project 4 is a project in which is, if you like, a passive interest for Block Energy at the moment. It's significant, but it's being developed by a local oil and gas company here in Georgia. They're in the driver's seat on that one. They're currently farming out that project, and again, more interest from foreign investors in that project, which only highlights the fact that Georgia remains an interesting destination for foreign investment. And then we have our carbon capture and storage project, which is you know, a strategic project for us, and one of which is getting a hell of a lot of attention at the moment, both internally from my team of engineers and subsurface, as well as externally from third-party advisors that are helping us design a measurement and monitoring process as part of moving towards our first pilot study, which would be the injection of carbon into some depleted reservoirs that we have throughout our licenses. That project's starting to look really exciting, and the team are moving that along with some speed, so it's good.
Can you tell us more details about where is this project location and the investment plans?
Yeah, so the project was defined by an independent advisory firm in the UK that essentially screens some of our depleted reservoirs across our core asset, which is Block 11B and 11F, which is where we're located today, actually. And it was defined that we had up to around 140 million tonnes of carbon storage available within a reservoir that has been producing since the early 70s actually out here. That reservoir is now depleted, and it offers itself to carbon storage, basically. There's a certain characteristic with the reservoir that enables us to, if you like, transform carbon into a limestone rock within a 12-month period. It's quite a unique process, and it's due to the geological composition of the rock that we'd be injecting carbon into. That project is located in and around the Rustavi Industrial Centre. So we have, you know, there's a fair amount of carbon being emitted into the atmosphere within that project location, which we are now running studies on with our experts in the UK and overseas that would see us basically capturing that carbon and injecting it down into some of our depleted reservoirs. And we hope to advance a pilot on that basis sometime this year, and we look forward to discussing it further with you.
And what are your new projects and also your plans for this year?
Yeah, I think plans for this year remain pretty much focused on farming out, finding a partner for our gas project. That is absolutely, you know, mission critical for the company. It's a strategic project that we want to advance. So all resources are focused on moving that along, and developing the carbon capture and storage project. You know, that seems to be moving at quite a pace actually. And you know, we think given the current environment and the unique characteristics available to us as part of developing that project, the project demands real focus and you know, would benefit from development with speed. So those are the key focuses for this year.
Block Energy has a new project with Georgian Oil and Gas.
Yes.
And tell us more about this project. What's your partnership about?
Partnering up with Georgia Oil and Gas for Block Energy was a significant move in the company's history, and essentially that partnership is now captured under Project 4, and Georgian Oil and Gas are located in and around Block's core licences. So there are some non-core areas within Block's licences which form part of the non-core and core areas of Georgian Oil and Gas's portfolio. So it made sense just to put those projects together so we could capture the entire upside of the structures that have been defined, and give Georgian Oil and Gas the support when needed for them to develop those projects, again at breakneck speed. So the relationship is very simple. It's a very straightforward JV, whereby we seek to unitize existing license areas, creating one large license, which then complements the farm out process of Georgian Oil and Gas. They have a reserve base, over 1 billion barrels of oil. There's a lot of gas throughout their portfolio as well. So when we combine Georgian Oil and Gas's portfolio and opportunities with our opportunity set on a unified basis, it's a significant opportunity for any large industry player, hence why the partnership works.
So again, I wanted to ask you about your expectations and also some numbers about extracted oil and gas. Are these numbers increasing?
Yeah, I mean the numbers remain pretty flat at the moment because at the moment we're focused on developing our current projects which don't require us to drill more and produce more hydrocarbons, albeit that is certainly the future. For us, we see on a successful farm out of Project 3, gas production ramping up at least in phase 1 to around 150 million cubic feet a day, following a approximate $50 to $60 million investment.
This year?
So no, we see that effort would kick off, I'll say around H1 next year, following successful farm out. So the initial production volumes are 150 million cubic feet a day, ramping up to 300 million cubic feet a day. So those are the target production profiles, and in parallel to that, whilst we develop our CCS strategy, we're targeting, if we can achieve what we're setting out to achieve, over the next 12 to 18 months as part of that project, we could well be, a leading, upstream, zero net carbon energy company, built, founded, established in Georgia.
And do you have any new discoveries in your licensed area?
We certainly have some compelling targets to be drilled, and that is the plan over the coming, the coming 6 to 12 months. So no new discoveries, but we've worked up some pretty significant targets as part of our Project 3 plan. If we can get those drilled, I think it'll be an exciting time, not only for Block Energy, but for Georgia.
Thank you for your time and for interesting interview. Good luck.
My pleasure. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
And that's all for today. We'll meet next Sunday, 11 a.m. sharp. But before that, stay on BM.G and join those 528,000 viewers that we had just in June. Till next Sunday, take care.
The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma.